and a guy named Kirill Dmitriev, the economist behind the Russian economic revival, and the man who has put James Carville's words, it's the economy, stupid, and brought him back into political relevance here in the United States, where the focus is on the economy, not on military solutions.
What you just heard is not just another political opinion. This is a bombshell claim that could shake the very foundation of global politics. Scott Ritter paints a chilling picture of a high-stakes, behind-the-scenes political war. He describes a calculated takedown of Zelensky, orchestrated like a wrestling match, with Donald Trump delivering the final blow. According to Ritter, NATO and the European Union aren't just allies, they're obstacles, and the battlefield isn't in Ukraine, but in Washington. And behind it all, a grand strategy to reshape the future of American power, one that Ritter suggests is already in motion. As we delve deeper into the unfolding situation in Ukraine, the stakes continue to rise. We've just examined Scott Ritter's take. But now we shift our focus to a pivotal turning point: the upcoming diplomatic maneuvering and Russia's latest advances on the battlefield. The war in Ukraine is not just about military clashes. It's also a battle of negotiations, economic leverage, and strategic positioning. With high-level discussions on the horizon, Zelensky is under immense pressure, while Russia seizes the opportunity to press its advantage on the ground. The power dynamics are shifting once again, and the next steps will have profound consequences for the future of the war. The diplomatic front is heating up as Ukraine, the United States, and key European nations prepare for a critical round of talks. At the center of these negotiations is a list of strategic infrastructure sites that Kyiv is demanding protection for. This list, which Ukraine will present to the United States and Saudi Arabia, includes key energy and industrial facilities that the Ukrainian government wants to shield from Russian strikes. However, this seemingly defensive move masks a deeper geopolitical struggle, one that pits Ukraine's sovereignty against the strategic interests of both Washington and Moscow. The U.S. is not merely considering Ukraine's security requests out of goodwill. The Trump administration, driven by economic pragmatism, sees this as an opportunity to extend American influence over Ukraine's critical infrastructure. While mineral resources remain a long-term prize, immediate control over energy facilities presents a more urgent and profitable venture. The inclusion of Ukraine's nuclear power plants in this proposed deal is a major sticking point. If Washington gains control over these assets, it ensures steady financial returns while limiting Kyiv's leverage in future negotiations. Zelensky is acutely aware of this, yet he finds himself in an impossible position. Either accept U.S. control over key industries or risk further Russian devastation. At the same time, Russia is watching these developments closely, understanding that Western control over Ukraine's assets could significantly weaken its own leverage in the war. The Kremlin strategy is clear: continue striking at Ukraine's infrastructure until Zelensky is forced into a corner where American intervention becomes the only viable option. This would further strain Kyiv's sovereignty, turning Ukraine into a battlefield not just of military engagement, but also of economic domination. Meanwhile, tensions surrounding territorial claims continue to escalate. Reports have surfaced indicating that Moscow is pushing for Trump's formal recognition of 4 Ukrainian regions as part of Russia, in addition to Crimea. In return, Russia is suggesting that it would halt further territorial ambitions, though few in the West believe such assurances. The implications of this demand are immense. If Trump were to concede to Moscow's terms, it would not only legitimize Russia's land grabs, but also embolden the Kremlin to exert greater pressure on Ukraine and NATO. This maneuver highlights just how precarious Ukraine's situation has become. On the battlefield, Russian forces are intensifying their operations, particularly around Chasiv Yar. The town, a critical stronghold in Donetsk Oblast, has been under relentless attack. Russian troops are clearing remaining Ukrainian defenses, attempting to tighten their grip on this strategically vital area. Capturing Chasiv Yar would be a significant victory for Moscow, as it provides a gateway to further advances in the Donetsk region. This renewed push underscores the urgency of the ongoing negotiations. Zelensky is not just fighting for economic control, but also for the survival of Ukraine's defensive positions. Zelensky's government is scrambling to counterbalance these pressures by engaging in new strategic partnerships. The European Union, wary of excessive American control over Ukraine's infrastructure, is exploring alternative routes to bypass Russian gas supplies. One emerging strategy involves using Ukraine's underground gas storage facilities to stockpile energy imports from Turkey and Greece, later distributing them to Slovakia and Hungary. This move is aimed at both reducing dependence on Russian gas and shielding critical infrastructure from Russian attacks. By storing gas for EU partners in the western regions of Ukraine, Kyiv is hoping to create a situation where any Russian strike on these facilities would strain Moscow's relations with European nations, particularly Slovakia and Hungary, which have at times maintained a more neutral stance toward Russia. This strategic play by Ukraine could reduce the list of facilities under potential U.S. control, allowing Kyiv to retain some leverage. However, all these political maneuvers come with inherent risks. If Ukraine refuses to comply with U.S. demands, Washington may dial back its financial and military support, leaving Zelensky with fewer resources to continue the fight. On the other hand, if Kyiv surrenders too much economic control to the West, it risks becoming a mere pawn in a broader geopolitical struggle between the U.S. and Russia. The clock is ticking. Monday's discussions will be a defining moment for Ukraine's leadership. Zelensky must decide whether to concede more control to Washington or find an alternative path that ensures Ukraine's autonomy while maintaining Western support. Meanwhile, Russia will continue pressing its advantage on the battlefield, making gains where possible to strengthen its negotiating position. As the fog of war thickens, one thing is clear: the coming days will shape the trajectory of the conflict in ways that could alter Ukraine's fate for years to come. The negotiations, the battlefield dynamics, and the global economic interests intertwined in this war are all converging into a high-stakes moment. The world is watching, and every move will determine whether Ukraine can hold its ground or be further entangled in a web of competing powers. If you found this deep dive into the latest developments insightful, make sure to like this video and subscribe to stay updated on the ever-evolving situation. The stakes are higher than ever, and the battlefield is shifting both on the ground and in diplomatic talks. Will Ukraine be forced into concessions? Will Russia push forward with its offensive? And what role will the U.S. and its allies play in shaping the outcome? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss where this war is heading next. Stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll see you in the next update. This list, which Ukraine will present to the United States and Saudi Arabia, includes key energy and industrial facilities that the Ukrainian government wants to shield from Russian strikes. Reports have surfaced indicating that Moscow is pushing for Trump's formal recognition of 4 Ukrainian regions as part of Russia, in addition to Crimea. While mineral resources remain a long-term prize, immediate control over energy facilities presents a more urgent and profitable venture. The inclusion of Ukraine's nuclear power plants in this proposed deal is a major sticking point. If Washington gains control over these assets, it ensures steady financial returns while limiting Kyiv's leverage in future negotiations.